Sorry. Thank you. Just to welcome everyone here for the Cycling and Walking Subcommittee meeting on the 19th of October. I'd like to go around the table and just introduce ourselves. For a start, my name is Paul Davidson. I'm chairing the committee.
I'm Scott Waxendale. I'm the Group Manager of the District Assets.
Simon Bastian, Chief Executive of Western District Council.
Paul Major, Chairman Ngati Mahaki.
Tim Brownlee, Generation Site Leader, Trust Power.
Owen Kilgour, Hokitika District Operations Manager for Department of Conservation.
Tony Thrupp, Conservation Senior Ranger for Heritage.
Paul Strange from Stantic and Greymouth, and involved primarily as master track regime.
Inga Perkins from the New Zealand Walking Access Commission.
And also the council staff.
So I'm Megan Smith, I'm the committee secretary.
Brian Maitland, Executive Assistant. Leslie Crichton, Group Manager Corporate Services.
Thank you. Apologies we have from Liam Anderson and His Worship the Mayor and John Witt, Chair of the West Coast Wilderness Trail Trust. Any other apologies? Would someone like to move that we receive and accept these apologies? Move from Tim, and I'll second that. All those in favour? Aye. Carry.
Excuse me, Chief. Councillor Haddock's joined us from Brown.
Well, thank you, Councillor Haddock. The declaration of interest. The interest register has been circulated via Microsoft Teams, and there's also a hard copy on the table here to go around. 5 urgent items not on the agenda. I'll take it there's no urgent items. Thank you. Adoption from the terms of reference. The Cycling and Walking Committee terms of reference was adopted at the Capital Projects and Tenders Committee meeting dated 3rd of August 2021 and have been circulated to the subcommittees as part of the agenda. Okay, I'll take it there was an amendment there. Is that right? Were you going to talk on that? Thank you.
So just to confirm what the chair stated, so the terms of reference has been adopted by the Capital Projects and Tenders Committee. Just wanted to get it endorsed at this meeting, and just go around the room and ask if there's any suggested final changes to it. Which you chair, so or anything from you?
No issues.
Tony, John, Ingo. I know you get some.
I had a few. I hope this is not too pedantic, but I just thought we're starting out a new subcommittee, and it's worth getting our terms of reference right. I just thought I've got a few suggestions that I thought we could just tweak a little bit. So the purpose, I thought it could be shortened and to make it a little bit tighter. And my suggestion was that the purpose of the Cycling and Walking Subcommittee is to oversee the governance of the West Coast Wilderness Trail and guide future strategies and decision making in relation to cycling and walking, rather than all that alert. Yeah. But does it say the same? Does it say the same thing in your opinion? My shortened version. Okay. Next one. I just wondered in that the structure chart there, key stakeholders is over on the left, but it describes key stakeholders as being a part of that committee. The purpose of the committee was to bring them into the committee. So how does that illustration work?
So,
How does that work?
so the subcommittee members, which obviously yourself included, is the conduit back to the key stakeholders. That's how it's meant to fit in terms of the diagram.
And who are those? Who are the key stakeholders? Who like Guakatai?
Definitely, yes. If
Okay.
you look at the governance side, it does pick out a couple of additional stakeholders. So anyone that has aspirations to, I suppose, present to the committee can come through relevant members. That's the conduit. This shows the conduit through to that process.
Okay, thank you. And under the responsibility section, just on the second set of bullet points where they're receiving reports, the last bullet point, assist with bridging project barriers outside the influence of staff, seems to better fit under the first set of bullet points. It's what the subcommittee is doing. It's not what the reports are about.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And then just pedantic, the cycling and walking subcommittee shall have delegated authority to. Those bullet points that follow should have the appropriate verb at the front. So to co-opt or to perform or commission reports. That so those could be fixed. And then just at the top of the next page, it talks about the duration of the discussion. I just wondered what that meant, whether it would be useful to clarify that, whether it meant discussion about a member of staff or something like that. So for the duration of any discussion concerning a member of staff, perhaps. And just a suggestion for the second sentence of the next paragraph, which begins whilst. And instead of that, which was a bit confusing, whilst they do not form part of the subcommittee, they will be consulted on any relevant aspect of the subcommittee's work. I thought that made more sense to me anyway. And just on the next paragraph, overall performance and health of the trail is maintained and where possible improved. Where just where requires an H to make it where. And that's all. Thank you very much.
So the chair, most of these are administrative aspects, so there's no need to go back to the cover projects for any revision. So I'm happy to adopt with modified changes.
Okay. So would someone want to move that?
Can I do that?
And second? Tim, thank you, Tim. All those in favour? Aye, carry. Next on the list is the action list, and that will be presented by Scott Fatsenbell, Group Manager of District Assets.
There's 4 items that have been carried over from the previous committee. The first one is Milltown Weir Crossing. The site visit's been completed, designed under evaluation, but it's currently on hold pending a review of alternative route options. On the second item, which is the Mahinapoa Historic Bridge Highway Crossing, site visit was done in March, and Stantec were commissioned to complete a new design, and Stantec provided a draft review at the July meeting, and we need to take that forwards. Item 3, which is the trail exiting onto State Highway 6, further hazard assessments are to be completed as part of a larger safety audit for the trail, and it's being undertaken over the next couple of months. The same applies to the trail safety audit, which is number 4, which is it's in there, but it's been delayed a couple of months before it's completed.
Any questions at all? Paul?
Thank you. The Mahinapoa Bridge, I wonder if there is an opportunity there to include in the forward planning for Po Whenua, because Mahinapoa Creek is a huge significant boating item, and this is a great opportunity to tie it in with the number of visitors going there, tied in with the Ponua pathway. But if we started planning now,
We can take that away.
Just through the chair, there's definitely, that's a great suggestion, but definitely also the Arahoa Town route, there's potential for that in the same aspect. So we have applied for a number of funding, which Scott will take us through later on, but we've applied for funding for the highway crossing, but we haven't applied for that aspect of it. But definitely we can put on the radar for the future works in terms of costing. So we need to get a bit of a costing done for what that will forms part of the next application.
the cost varies wildly.
Yeah, or you could reach out to yourselves in terms of give us the scope of work and costs. So, because it needs to go as part of the application anyway.
Well, yeah, we're happy to help with that. I didn't like that word give. I thought for us to give the poem.
Oh, really?
But I mean, we can certainly contribute something in there, I think. But yeah, I mean, look, the cost could be anything from a few $1,000s to something it's quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
But the Mahanapur one in particular, being beside the state highway, I think would need to be a little bit more elaborate.
You have to be careful if we do something like that, it doesn't become a visitor attraction, which we don't have parking facilities for unless we.
I guess the key thing is to go through a process of thinking about the big picture and working through options and to find the right answer.
That's right.
Yeah, an answer that does justice.
Paul, may I ask? Just is the Poe Whenua you're talking about, Paul? Is that like the one on the riverside here? Is that the same type of thing, or I've got completely muddled up? The Poe that's on the riverside here that talks about the history of the riverside? Different?
No, different. No, completely different. I think you were talking about the Poe Whenua.
Poe Whenua, sorry. Yep.
Yeah, which is through
Heritage Museum.
This would be a Poe Whenua. Given the significance of the site, I'd suggest it would be quite well carved. And tell something of that story.
Yeah. And some interpretation alongside it.
Any further questions from anyone? Thank you, Scott. So someone move that the updated action list from the group manager district assets be received. Inga, and I'll second it. All those in favour? Aye. Carried. Next presentation, the Walking Access New Zealand, and that will be done by Inga Perkins, Regional Field Advisor, West Coast New Zealand Walking Access Commission.
Thank you. So first of all, thank you very much for including the New Zealand Walking Access Commission on this new subcommittee. I think it's a great idea and a great idea to extend the range of the committee that was focused on the wilderness trail to more broadly looking at cycling and walking for the district. So really welcome that and really keen to be a part of that. I just wanted to introduce the commission and my role, and I just thought it'd be simplest if I just explain, first of all, how the commission fits in to the legislation. The commission was created under the Walking Access Act 2008. The purpose of the Act is to provide the New Zealand public with free, certain, enduring and practical walking access to the outdoors, so that the public can enjoy the outdoors. So that's the key thing. It's free, certain, enduring and practical. That's a purpose for the commission, and it's in there in the Act very clearly. And we have a responsibility for leading and supporting the negotiation, establishment, maintenance and improvement of walking access over public and private land, and the types of access that might be associated with walking access. And this is a really critical point, because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding that the Walking Access Commission and the Walking Access Act relates only to walking. And I think I may have been invited onto this subcommittee because of that title, but walking is critical, but so also is other types of access, which may be for hunters with firearms, people with dogs, on bicycles, on horses, motor vehicles, all sorts of access, whatever's appropriate to that situation. So the functions of the committee, of the commission, one of the key roles is the national leadership role on outdoor access issues. We prepare and administer a national strategy coordinating public access among relevant stakeholders in central and local government, and providing local and regional leadership on a coordination of walking access in collaboration with local authorities. So this is a perfect opportunity to mix those two together by me being a part of this subcommittee. Those organisations that we also work with will be DOC very closely, and also Land Information New Zealand, Overseas Investment Office, Local Government Association, and Heritage New Zealand, those sort of organisations. I'll get off slides with lots of words in a minute, very, very closely there. I just thought some of these things are really key to be clear on. So just another aspect of the function of our commission, we compile, hold and publish maps and information about the land over which there is public access. And that's one of the first things that the Act required of us. And we are on about version 3 or 4 of our walking access mapping system, which is hugely valuable. People use it all the time to work out where they have public access, for example, to go hunting if they're not using regular tracks, but also finding places where they think there's looking for access and finding that there might be an obstruction, and then we can facilitate resolution of disputes about access over things like legal roads, which might be locked and shouldn't be, lock gates, and also negotiating with landowners to obtain walking and other rights of access through easements, that kind of opportunity for securing long-term permanent access. Another aspect of our role is actually providing grants to help people secure new access. And there's been a couple on the West Coast recently through our Enhanced Access Grant Fund, which supports new access easements in terms of the legal and survey costs. We've done that with the painkiller tract just north of Reefton. There was a little a gap in the access to make it a complete loop, so we were able to help volunteers there provide an easement over the private land to secure that access loop. And also more locally at Blue Spur and along the Brennan Creek, there's some access in there to connect into the extensive mountain bike trails in the Naitahi Forestry area there. So that it was made available by the landowners, but that's now been secured through an easement in the event that they sell it. Someone else might have said no. So what are we, apart from what we've just heard of, what our purpose is and how we came into being? We're the government's expert on public access. We create and support ways to get people into the outdoors. And as I said, that includes walking, cycling, horse riding, and all sorts of types of access into the outdoors for recreation, connecting communities, through communities, between communities, helping those communities thrive with that access. We have headquarters in Wellington, a team of regional field advisors, including me on the West Coast. We have a board appointed by the Minister responsible for Walking Access Commission, which is the Associate Minister for Prime Ministers, and currently the Honourable Meka Whaitiri. And so one of the key things that we're doing is providing a legacy of public access to the outdoors for everyone in New Zealand. We support the creation of new and improved public access. We work with recreationalist landholders, iwi, trail groups and builders, including dispute resolution to ensure their access. We provide information for the public on where they can go, what they can do, how to behave in the outdoors. We have a national strategy and contribute to or lead regional access strategies. And this is our strategy, it's our statement of intent. We're required to prepare and administer the national strategy, which we call our statement of intent. It sets out what the Commission intends to achieve over the next 4 years and how we'll manage our functions and operations to meet those intentions. When we first started, we were much more about enabling people to find ways to the outdoors across private land, and that sort of evolved to including being about the journey itself, being about the experience, being out in the outdoors for the sake of it, for the benefits of it. I mentioned one of the key things that we do is provide the walking access mapping system. So you can see on that little snippet of Hokitika there, the legal roads are in purple, whether they're formed or unformed. Conservation areas are 1 green, local council reserves are brighter green. Those sort of things are indicating where the public rights of way are effectively in our neighbourhoods. And we've just recently launched a new app called Pocket Maps, which you can download onto your phone. And then when you're outside phone coverage and outside data availability, you can pre-download it, the West Coast region or wherever you happen to be, and it will show you, find out where you are on that map, and it will show you where the local public access points are. Really, really useful. We also, I think I mentioned, we are trying to support really good behaviour in the outdoors. So we have an outdoor access code also required under the Act, and that's it provides guidance for people who are looking for access, but also for landowners who might be providing access, and just encouraging best behaviour really, so that it's so that people are not upsetting landowners who might be providing access out of the goodness of their hearts, and creating in some cases we're seeing around the country where landowners have been upset by people leaving gates open or disturbing stock, so that access for others has been lost. So we really encourage good behaviour out there. This is another thing that we've added in the last couple of years. It's called Find My Adventure. And the idea is you can pop onto this part of our website and say, right, I want a short walk in the Hokitika area, what's available? And that's available around the country. A longer walk, something with a wheelchair, a bike ride, and just these are the local trails in Hokitika, just short walks, which Peter Oliver provided me the details, and I provided the shape files and photographs. And then the idea is that councils or other agencies can embed a link to their local tracks on their website. And I think that's just a loop we haven't extended into the Western District Council website yet, and I should probably talk to Emma about that. So what do I do? My region is the same as the regional council region, and our 3 district councils on the coast. I've worked with community groups. I've been working quite closely with the Charleston to Westport Coastal Trail Trust, creating the Karatiri Coastal Trail. First started working with them, looking at our maps to try and link up where they were going to put their trail, and then with a grant application, and then with the idea that a walkway under the Walking Access Act, which is a form of easement, would be the best option for them. And then the easements for any landowners within that trail route all fall in under the same collective picture, and they can manage that trail as a whole more easily. It requires the council to be a controlling authority, which they've agreed to, and then the Trails Trust picks up a lot of that responsibilities of the controlling authority for the walkway through a memorandum of understanding. The map on the bottom, I also worked with the Southwestern Wilderness Trail group, who for several years were looking to find a route from Ross down to the glaciers. Spent an awful lot of time developing that, and they had the support of Wakatai to try and get cyclists off the road in some of those pinch points. So there's a lot of work sitting there ready to be picked up when the time is right, and hopefully that's soon. And I think that group is currently just focusing on Corrido, Franz Joseph access area or areas down there. Something that has been taking up a lot of my time over the years is trying to resolve disputes. And locked gates across legal road is a really difficult dispute to try and resolve, particularly where people have had a locked gate for some time, and then people work out that actually they have a right to use it. That top left one is at Ruatapu. The property company for the Destination Westland had put that sign up, which was inappropriate and came off again. It was saying that you couldn't go through there, you should use somewhere else, but there's a right of access through that legal road there. The owners of the adjacent property had the approval from the council to put a gate on, but not a lock. So we're still trying to work through that. And I'm working now with Mark Dixon, who's the compliance manager, to try and resolve that, and through Simon as well. So getting there slowly. And on the right, there's a legal road access to Mirror Creek with another lock on. Trying to work through that one. same with Mark's help. And then the bottom left one was just north of Hokitika, where some miners had put that on there. They put a locked gate in and a sign saying private property across Legal Road. So I spoke to Carl Jackson, who's the roading manager, and he sorted that out pretty quickly. But it was difficult because the miners were suffering some thefts at the time. So very tricky, but the rights of the public remain and need to be upheld by the council, generally speaking, on legal roads. New access, I mentioned this one. This is at Blue Spur, providing access to the forestry, Night Eye forestry area and the mountain bike trails through there. And contributing to plans and policy, I contributed to the regional land transport plan, trying to encourage more cycling and walking to be a part of that plan. And some of my suggestions were adopted, submitted and presented to the Borough Council on their unformed legal roads policy. In fact, the Western District Council has a very good policy on unformed legal roads. Sometimes it's a bit hesitant to enforce it, but we're going there, but it's a good policy. And also submitted to the long-term plan this year, particularly with regard to Pine Tree Road, where members of the public got in touch with me saying, what can we do about this? And there's legal road that goes from the formed Pine Tree Road up to How Road, and it'd be marvellous to get a formed track in there for cycling and walking. West Road's priced out at around $30,000, so I'm keen to find out at some point from somewhere. But at the moment, kids have made a track through there and people are slipping and sliding and falling and hurting themselves. But it will be a marvellous connection for the community to the Western Wilderness Trail, to the school, just joining up communities more safely, getting them off the main road as well. Just doing, for this presentation, I was asked to talk about my aspirations for coming onto this committee. And more walking, more cycling more often seem to jump out at me, and that's the vision of the West Coast Regional Walking and Cycling Strategy, which has been gathering dust at the Regional Council's website since 2009, but it's sitting there, and I think the Regional Council's keen to update it and will be doing soon. But I did notice that the Borough Council adopted it the other day, strangely, a bit belatedly perhaps, but it's a good strategy and it deserves our attention, and perhaps this committee can even have a look at it at some point and or encourage its updating with our input at some point soon. And finally, I just thought it'd be nice to read this. This was from one of our communications manager wrote this during one of the lockdowns when people were thinking about the outdoors. So when walking is a luxury, we can afford to drive or fly to the beginning of our walk. We take our cameras and layers of merino and sturdy boots and get out into the famed Kiwi outdoors. But when walking is a necessity, our only form of exercise, then we have different needs. We need good quality public access to the outdoors in our neighbourhood. We need to be able to see trees, hear birds, and smell falling leaves from our own doorstep. We will beat COVID-19, and when we do, we will still have our love of walking. We will still have our love for our local neighbourhood, and we'll still have a need to connect to our whenua through good public access. When we beat COVID-19, we next need to think about new ways that everyone has great local public access to the outdoors. Thank you very much. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks, have we got any questions there from anyone?
Just some comments. Thank you for the presentation. And we have been working closely together, even though it takes some time to work through some issues. I join you in your aspirations in terms of cycling and walking. And obviously endorse what the Mountain Club's aspirations are as well. And this is why you're here today as part of this group, in representing the content of I suppose, other keen walkers out there and what their aspirations are. I'm quite keen to develop an overarching master plan for obviously Hokitika, but the other parts of the region which would like to see further walking tracks put in. I know DOT is a whole suite of them, but I'm more focused on townships and around townships to make the, I suppose, the interaction between walking and cycling more unified and making it quite, I suppose, a point of interest as well as being a mode of transport. So yeah, we'll work together on that over the coming years as this committee develops. We have 2 more years before the next LTP. Our program work is probably locked down, but I think by that stage, be quite nice to actually understand what the redefined aspirations are in a combined plan going forward.
Absolutely, and it fits into all sorts of things. It fits into new subdivision plans and that kind of aspect of the council's work as well. So making sure communities are connected before they're even planned or as they're being planned.
Correct. And spatial planning is an important feature that all councils are tasked to be done as part of the new RMA review. So including future aspirations of development, but including those as a part of how do they get in and out of there without throwing more cars and trucks on the road. So interesting, exciting times in front of us.
Just any further questions or comments from anyone? Paul?
Inga, do you work closely with Naito Forestry?
Yes, actually, a little bit. Actually, not so much. Sorry, we do work closely with them. Yes, let me start again. With one of my other hats, I work quite closely with Naito Forestry for the South Island Coolgago Charitable Trust, actually, and accessing for some research that we're doing. And they've been very supportive on that. So I've been keeping them up to date with that particular project, but not so much on access. But in fact, I've been more involved in forestry in Marlborough and the top of the south, but it's relevant to the forestry here. And particularly in top of the south, when there's overseas investment office purchases and forestry changing hands, it's an opportunity to get access back for New Zealanders. So not so much with Naito and forestry, but connected.
Yeah, the reason I ask is of course, there's the forests around here riddled with old forestry roads, and people often think that they have a right of freedom of access on these roads, and Naito Forestry are pretty relaxed, or have a fairly relaxed attitude, but there are times when they when it's tested and they really need to close the public access. That cause conflict and have problems with fly tipping and the likes.
Yes.
Yes,
No, they're really, really good actually compared to some of the forestry companies that I have dealt with regard to public access. They're very, very good. I deal with Chris Dunn a lot, and he provides the access. And they're just very, very helpful, and they deal with an awful lot, lots and lots of people, whether they want firewood or they want to go hunting or want to go and find a cool cocoa. They're very welcoming and open to that, and they know that they need to shut it when they're doing forestry operations, and it's for safety reasons. So they just, from my point of view, it seems to work really, really well. But I have been talking to them also actually about new gates and trying to find a way of managed access. And I've been talking to Tony a little bit about this as well, where there's areas where there's issues for if we need access through private property, perhaps to conservation areas beyond, or to approved forestry where there's hunting, for example. Managed access through some sort of Bluetooth lock system, which at the moment is horribly expensive, but it can be a way that the owner of that property knows who's coming and going, when they're coming and going, and it can provide specific access to that person with that phone, with that app, following sort of approval or submission of a driving license and a hunting permit and an acceptance of conditions and those kind of things. So there's technological ways forward that are improving managing public access to some of those private spaces. Positive stuff.
Any further questions from anyone? Thanks, Inga. I'd like to move that the Walking Access New Zealand presentation from Inga Perkins, Regional Field Advisor, West Coast at the New Zealand Walking Access Commission be received. Do I have a second, please? Tim, thank you. First, before we move on to John, just welcome aboard Jackie at 3:25. So presentation from John Strange. Thank you, John. That's on the Mountain Bike Club, correct? Yeah, thank you.
So afternoon all. I extend the apologies of Liam Anderson, our club president. Sadly couldn't make it today. Was desperately keen to be here and asked me to extend his excitement on behalf of the club at having a seat at this subcommittee. It's an exciting time, and just hearing what Inga's talked about covers a number of things that are quite important to the Mountain Bike Club as well, in terms of access and clarity around access and those kind of things. Our club has a very strong presence locally in the range of things that we do and can do and have done through relationship with Department of Conservation, including with Tony, provided input to the Lake Canary track upgrade that was carried out a number of years ago, including volunteer input at the very outset to show that hand construction methods could be used on that track, which immediately resulted in an excavator not being put in to do the bulk of the work. It meant money went further, and we've kept a track that's very much in keeping with what it was originally built as. We've got a very strong relationship of trust with the Department of Conservation, and that's when we've conveyed that to others outside the region. They're quite amazed at that. So it's nice to have built trust like that. We have our mountain bike, called it bike park, in the Blue Spur Forest. And we're very appreciative to Naito Forestry for providing us with access. We do have an access agreement up there, and we're very mindful of the honour to be able to have trails in that area, and it's something we're quite excited about, and it's a nice asset that is something that people come to town for, and it connects in nicely with the easier grade type wilderness trail, provides a different sort of opportunity. Our club has a range of skills that through Liam and through myself will be at the table. And the Paparoa track, built by the Department of Conservation, is a good example where club members of a very small club have had pretty much a role from the top to the bottom of that, from the investigations, the route finding, trail construction, trail management, and the overall managing of the work. So it's quite an exciting kind of collection of people and of skills. We're excited about the linkages of trails, and I think your summary at the end of your presentation, Inga, of the observation of your comms person of during normal times we all go and do things out the back. During lockdown, we're all looking in our immediate neighbourhoods and looking for linkages, and I personally was doing some trail clearing and trail drainage work around the top of the airport track to improve those things, knowing that I won't go back to it immediately post-lockdown, but there's a contribution for now, and one I'd like to see soon is the one on Wadeson Island, and through this group see the ability to have conversations about getting things like that, I guess, identified in the first instance, benefits that can be achieved, and how we'll contribute to making those happen. So hopefully that wasn't too many words for a brief on behalf of Liam.
Oh,
and we look forward to having him here at the next meeting.
Yeah. It's good, John. Anyone got any questions or for John at all?
Just through the chair, just regards to Natai Forest and access. Does that enable full public access or just to the mountain club members?
It's to the mountain bike club. I'm not certain about overall general people coming into the area. We do have it's a long outstanding task, which is to come up with signage for the top, for the entry to the forest at the bottom and the top, and which will include health and safety information and so trail information. Thank you to Naitahu and Forest Code of Conduct in terms of safety and safe access. So we actually need to get on with that, and I guess that then will make it clear. There's always been an encouragement for locals to be members, to benefit from the work we do in there, and the offering of access and to encourage others.
So through the part of obviously this committee's aspirations is to become a destination for cycling and walking, but I'm obviously having the full gamut of types of trails, and I know the Wilderness Trail is grade 2. Parts of your trail obviously are they're a grade 4. I'm not sure there's a grade 5 at all, but
I think, yeah,
you know, just that whole marketability of having two parts of in different scales of riding. And obviously be part of the full wider campaign for the West Coast. Thanks, John.
nice.
Any other questions at all?
Thank you.
Thanks, John. I move that that we receive the Western Mountain Club presentation from John, and seconded from Inga. Thank you. The next on the list is the Loop Line Road Diversion and Dillman Duffus Kamara Reservoir, and that's going to be presented by Tim Brownlee, Technical Team Leader, Trust Path.
Just use the line through to the, just the way arrows there.
Right. So I guess the first thing is there's a bit of a dual name there. So that's the new name for Trust Power from February, or from West Coast Generation from February, basically. So Trust Power sold off their customers, and the name Trust Power went with their customers. They sold them to Mercury. So that deal's going through now. It's been passed by the Commerce Commission. So there's just some trust stuff to be tied up around Tauranga. So yes, from February, that's what you'll see on our signs and vehicles.
Is that common knowledge?
Yep. Yeah.
How much they pay for the squid?
That's free. That's free, Paul. Often.
Off your doodle pad.
West Coast Mountains.
It's actually an adaptation of a sine wave. Sine wave. So yeah. So anyway, today just wanted to put in front of the committee the proposed work that we're going to have in the Loop Line about this time next year. So that one is a bit hard to see. I might just move on to the next one. That's the whole scheme overview from basically, you can't quite see, but it's more around the Dillmanstown area, just to the left of that. 73 there, you'll see the Capitea Reservoir and then the Loop Line Reservoir, those round black dots on there. It's quite hard to see. Let's move on. The next picture should be, that's just a whole scheme overview. This presentation was put together to put towards to be presented to the Regional Council for consenting issues. So the this part of work in the Loop Line, which we're consenting now, is likely to happen in the summer 2022 to 2023, and it's part of a lot of work that's going on around the Capitea Long Dam, Short Dam, Spillway, and the canal between the Dillman's Power Station and the intake for the Kamara Power Station. So these are all strengthening works for earthquake strengthening, and an attempt to lower the PIC rating of the dams, which is potential impact capability is what PIC stands for. Basically means if there's a rupture of the dam or something downstream, what could happen. It says all that there. The Loop Line is the initial part of this work, and the other bits will be probably in the following years. So the proposal of the Loop Line is to strengthen the buttress of the downstream side of the dam, remove the existing 900 mm diameter pipe through the embankment and replace it with a 2.5 metre diameter pipe, and put a proper gate on the structure at the moment. All we have is timber fingers that go down in front of the pipe, so you've got to get out there and push. They're basically, the fingers are just wooden boards. So that means that we can actually have remote control over that gate. So this is a picture there of the buttressing work. You can see the thick black line is the existing culvert through the embankment of the loop line dam. That's where that concrete pipe is, and you know, you see the water rushing out between the two reservoirs. So we're going to go slightly up the road a little bit, put a new concrete pipe through with an intake gate structure, and then all the lines and rockwork are what's going to be proposed to be done in the in front of the dam, the existing dam. So this work is probably going to take about 3 months, and obviously this is the bit that's going to impact on the wilderness trail, where we would have to close that part, you know, to public access. I mean,
Assume you've got an alternate route for us.
so, okay. So obviously this is just some of the assessments that are going on at the moment. There's terrestrial wetland ecology, aquatic ecology, archaeology and hydrology. Consultation is with DOC. I think there was a meeting today with them. We've been to the regional council. I don't think it's going to affect any landowners, tangata whenua, and obviously I'm here today. Yes.
Do you want to comment on that before we go to the next one, or do you?
The next one's just pretty much just on your question. Really.
Oh, okay, carry on.
Just the alternative. So just there, what you can see there is you can see the loop line road, and that intersection, the cross where right up the top left there is where the power line track comes through, and just on that bend is where the cycle trail comes out of the bush and carries on down to where the red stroke is, which is where the proposed works, the new culvert's going to go. And then I think it's only this slide here. So I guess there's a couple of alternatives there. You've got your yellow arrows, which show where you would come off the top of the long dam on the Kapatea Reservoir, go onto Stafford Loop Road, down Stafford Loop Road to Duffers Creek Road, and through Duffers Creek out onto the old Christchurch Road, and then back up to the Race Road. Or the blue line is an alternative down the power line track. I think that you wouldn't ride down there as it sits now. There's some culverts, big culverts, and John will probably be able to comment more on that than myself. I haven't been right through it, and I'm not sure what Duffers Creek Road's like either, because I know there's gold mining in at the top end of that where it joins the Stafford Loop Road. But they would be the options.
Okay.
But that's why we're here a year out, so that these can be all explored. I suppose then the third option is that you've got to close the wilderness trail, which no one will want to do, of course. My preferred option would be the yellow arrows rather than the down the power line track, because that then keeps people off Loop Line Road, and through the excavation process there will be quite a few truck movements and things like that.
How would it be closed for?
3 months is the intended time frame.
There's no option on the eastern side of the dam? Highway, really?
Just state highway.
Okay.
It's
Yeah. I've got one question, Tim. Like the 3 months work, when do you think they're sort of planning to do that, like in terms of spring, summer, autumn?
about this time.
Okay.
going forward.
Oh, this time.
Yeah, well, obviously, we're looking for the low rainfalls and
Okay.
low intakes.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
If it could have been done in the middle of winter when the track volumes were down, probably would, but yeah, the inflows, I think when we empty the Capitol Reservoir in 2 months, just inflows without taking any water out of the proper intake, and it fills up again just through.
Sure. Any other questions for Tim?
So just with you, we'll work with Tim and obviously potentially John as well in terms of validating the alternate route and the cycle car manager as well. And I think we need to have that pretty well clearly identified probably first quarter of next year, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Yep.
Whose property does the yellow lines go over?
The blue lines are all Trustbear's property. The yellow lines they're all on roads. I'm not sure whether Duffers Creek Road is a council road or a paper road right through or not. I think it is, right?
Any further questions? Thank you, Tim. I'd like to move that the Loop Line Road Diversion presentation from Tim Brownlee, Technical Team Leader at Trust Power, be received. Do I have a seconder there, please? Thank you. Afternoon, Jackie. You're on. Jackie.
Thank you, everybody. I'll just get my presentation up. Right, so just a very quick report, just updating. Obviously, with the Wilderness Trail, we're doing a lot of the ongoing project work that I'd call business as usual, but just reporting on a couple of the new things that we're doing. So with MB, obviously we're pursuing the accessible riding. We put an application through for that, working with Ross Ormsby and looking at getting that guide up and having quite a focus on the fact that the trail is a very accessible trail to ride on. So hopefully we'll be able to push that through with funding and materialise what we were looking at there. We've also had a strategic planning meeting from the trust perspective. I've just documented some of the focus. So obviously the 4 pillars that we already had and we're working on around leadership, rider experience, growth in numbers and economic and social return. We've obviously still got those as our priorities, but really looking at the whole financial side of the trust and contributing to some of the project work we're doing going forward. So the financial side is quite important. We're going to be looking at sponsorship and grants to help us with that. We had a discussion about the trail enhancement. So a number of things are obviously already in hand with that. The committee, the trustees did raise concerns about the Hokitika Bridge. I know that has been looked at and obviously just re-raised that as a concern. The Ross Strait and what enhancements we could look at doing on the Ross Strait, and obviously trying to connect the connection between Lake Mahinapua and the Treetop Walk was talked about. The Shantytown Loop, which was in planning, and also elevating the 7 Golden Gullies to try and cement Ross as more of a destination at the end. So they were the enhancements that we talked about. Also talked about commercial development and how we can act as a trust to try and grow more businesses on the trail, and also the issue that we've got with that gap in accommodation out Lake Canary, and looking at how that could possibly be filled. And I know we're sort of thinking about options with that already. In terms of event development, we're looking very much at obviously supporting what we've got already, and also I'm doing a body of work that's actually looking at whether or not we can grow the numbers on the trail, particularly in the off seasons around the secondary school market. With the Grey District Council coming on board with funding for us, I've become aware that there are probably some funding opportunities that they have missed. So looking at working much more closely with them to capitalise on that. I've also been working with development West Coast Tourism on the marketing plan, working with Patrick and working in with their campaigns that they've got coming up. So just documenting that and also taking a step. Our website is about 8 years old, so we're actually looking at raising the money to upgrade the website, because we're just finding that there are things that are not compatible and are breaking on that, and we've probably nursed that along for quite a while. So looking at a new website as well. And then I just finished with looking at the start finish banners that New Zealand Cycle Trails is looking at putting in at the end of the trails. It's the first part of the project, and we did have a request, particularly from Western District, that could more of these go out. We've put that through to New Zealand Cycle Trails, and obviously the funding for it is probably one of the issues, so it may well be a stage 2 that comes up. So that's really just a quick overview of some of the new things that we're doing and the results of our strategic planning workshop.
Thank you, Jackie. Do we have any questions, Jackie, on this? No questions? I'd like to move that the West Coast Wilderness Trail Manager upgrade from Jackie Gurdon be received. And can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Tim. Now we have the quarterly maintenance update report from Melody Anderson, Chief Executive Officer, Destination Westland. All yours, Mel. All good.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I'll take the report as read, and just if there's any questions.
Any questions there from anyone at all? I haven't got any questions at all, Mel, but I certainly had a look through it, and there's some really good stuff going on there. Good maintenance work, some upgrade work. I know that you've had a bit of a challenge there with blowouts through washouts and stuff like that, and it looks like you guys are sort of working along with the Western District Council and ways to prevent that from happening again. So she looks fairly good out there.
Yeah, that's also, as noted in the report, a reflection of the work done with Scott's team and assets as well as my team. The working relationship has improved drastically since, well, in the last couple of years. Absolutely. Yeah.
Really good. No other questions then? Okay then, Mel. I take it that we received your report. Could I have a seconder on that, please? Inga, thank you. Carried. Thank you, Mel. Good on you. The next on the item is the major great rides funding application, and that will be presented from Scott Baxendale, Group Manager, District Assets.
Thank you. This is going to test my eyesight. We made 6 applications to the Maintaining the Quality of Great Rides funds. I'd just like to thank everybody involved in putting the applications together, including Jackie, who did a lot of work on it. We had a notification today that actually there's a maximum of 2 applications that you can put in within a 12-month period, but they very kindly consolidated all 6 applications into 2 for us, which is very good. We don't know yet quite which is within which package, but I'm sure we'll find out. To give some examples of what we bid for, at Taramako, we're looking at major maintenance. At Canary Water Race Bridges, we're looking at that. Mahanipur, we're looking at a viewing platform. We've also got some minor infrastructure that we bid for as well around shelters, toilets, stands and signage. In other parts, we've got safety enhancements, and it links into what Mel was talking about and some of the remedial work we're having to do following some storm damage. And then we've got Mahoneypua boardwalk and bridges as well. So there's a lot of work gone into it, a lot of money that we've bid for, and it ranges from 50% funding through to 75% funding. Closing date was the 30th of September, and we now wait 12 weeks to find out what the results of the applications are. I have to say we're hopeful because we've been very successful in the past in obtaining external funding. So that's the verbal update. What I would propose to do is to come back, obviously, once we've got the outcome and do a report and feedback directly on that.
Just some comments to that as well. So the Major Great Rides Fund has been oversubscribed this time, and we've been very successful in the past and probably been ahead of the game in terms of funding. I think everyone's now catching up and putting their applications in. But their applications go on some strong business case background. We have some applications working closely with DOC, particularly the Mahoneypua Boardwalks project. So I believe they've got sound business case. They also link strongly back to our asset capital plan. So some of those asset capital plans won't go ahead unless they do get funding. So that's one of the conditions of that piece of work. So hopefully we're very successful in this space, and the guys have done a great piece of work putting this all together in the time frame.
Thank you. Any other questions further? Yes, Paul?
Through the chair. So is this an annual fund?
Biannually, so twice a year.
Yeah. And so oversubscribed this time.
Yes.
But is this a possibility for Whenua? We talked about for the
potentially next round, yes, definitely. If we can link it in quite, obviously,
extends to that.
put the right marketing spin on it, definitely goes in. So it's $8 million. I think Jackie can confirm that $8 million a year that's up for grabs. I think we've put in about $900,000 worth in this application, so it's quite a big proportion of that.
Or you can get a few Whenuas for that.
Yeah, you could.
Okay.
You are muted, Jackie.
Yeah, just one correction to that, it's annual fund they do, and that's around about the figure I was talking to Mark Walters in Wellington yesterday, and yeah, they're looking at the overall, looking at our applications for that. I think they had their meeting today, so we'll hear shortly from that fund. Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions from anyone on that?
So just one point of clarification, our focus is around improving rider safety is the first aspect. So a lot of these existing structures have been identified as not to standard, Mahoneypua boardwalks, and also Lake Canary bridges, with a work out the bridges out there. So that's our first focus, is to get that improved significantly. I'm working closely with DOC partners again on that.
Thank you, Scott. I would like to move that the Major Great Ride funding applications verbal update from Group Manager District Assets be received. Can I have a second there, please? Tim, thank you. Resolution to go into public excluded. I'd like to move that the cycling walking subcommittee meeting move into public excluded section. Would someone like to second that, please? Yeah, thank you. Got that. So I'd like to advise the meeting will be adjourned for 2 minutes to allow the committee to disconnect from Zoom and open up the section of the meeting and reconnect the second Zoom invite to the public excluded section of the meeting. Full stop.